Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, with the name of God, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Assalamu alaikum, peace be with all of you. Before me, my respected brother, Shaykh Hisham, has very eloquently stated the importance and the centrality of remembering the message of Baqee, the symbolism of Baqee, and the relevance of Baqee to the current affairs of the Muslims and not just to our history. And so, although I don't have much to add, I would like to add my voice to this very important gathering. It is not just a protest against an injustice that took place about a century ago, but it is also a reminder of what the values and the way forward for the Ummah are, to heal our wounds and to regain our strength and our dignity. God says in the Quran, ذَلِكَ وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. To honor the symbols of God, that is what brings piety and what constitutes piety of the heart. Every faith, every religion, every nation, and every community has certain symbols. And those symbols represent and they preserve the ideals and the values of that community. And the ideals and the symbols that Allah has given us as Muslims, they are those places and those people who were our guides and our role models in living a life of purity and piety. Like every religion, there were efforts to abuse and to subvert the message of Islam, to convert the sublime message of liberation and salvation brought by our blessed Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, to a message not of liberation, but of subjugation and oppression. And even today, it is a grave tragedy that there are people who will make movies and will celebrate and will remember favorably those people who had no connection to the spiritual and the moral and even the legal and the theological teachings of our Prophet and the Quran, but used Islam only to obtain power and wealth and luxury and to oppress other people. They are symbols, but they are symbols of the eternal fight between truth and darkness on the side of darkness. And it is important for us to make sure that we remember and we honor and we preserve those symbols that are the symbols of light, that remind us that the message of Islam was never meant to conquer many territories and to spread an empire, but it was meant to conquer hearts and to reform the societies in those various territories, to worship one God and to establish truth and justice in order to bring humanity peace and tranquility within the heart and a just society, and to ready them to serve Allah and attain success and salvation in the hereafter. Those two visions of Islam are what we see play out in the history of this religion during the time of the Prophet and after his death. The version of Islam that remained true to the practice of our Prophet, the Sunnah of our Prophet, the command of our Prophet, that is the Islam of his progeny, his family, Ahlul Bayt, Imam Ali, Fatima Zahra, Imam Hasan, Imam Hussein, and the Imams from the progeny of Ahlul Bayt. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that is why the shrines of our Prophet's progeny are so important for us to honor, for us to visit, for us to make sure that we connect to and we renew our covenant to God and His Prophet through honoring those who preserved His teachings and who are the leaders of the Ummah. And this is also why there is an opposition to the remembrance of those people and anything that is a reminder of their lives, of their struggle and sacrifice, and of their vision for humanity and for Islam. The destruction of Baqee was not the historical act of a tyrannical and an oppressive king or government, but it is a continuing effort to fight the true Islam, which is a religion that brings healing to our own hearts, gives purpose to our lives, but also is a message that Muslims carry for humanity. I want to emphasize that we live in a world where we are witnessing a genocide taking place before our very eyes. And those who are not complicit, through our silence and our inaction, still bear a responsibility for a tragedy, for a crime that is being committed in our name or in our time and in our presence. We are witnessing an unfolding economic crisis, which follows on the heels of political and social crises in this country and throughout the world. Take a look at the world around us, and you can see that our problems are not a lack of wealth, or a lack of technology, or a lack of academic institutions, or potential to solve the problems of humanity. But it is a problem of willpower, it is a problem of morality, it is a problem of humility, it is a moral and an ethical problem that humanity suffers from, and that is the cause of all of the other political, military, economic, social, and individual problems that we see in our society and in the world around us. And that is exactly what the message of Ahlul Bayt comes with a cure and a solution for. It is not just the slogan that there is no God but God, and that Muhammad is his messenger, and that the Quran is the scripture, as Sheikh so eloquently stated before me. You will find people who testify that there is one God, and that Muhammad is his messenger, and who stand in prayer, and maybe even have memorized the Quran, but they will stand side by side with the Zionist forces in oppressing and attacking the weakest and the most defenseless people in this world. You will find those who claim to be Muslims, who will antagonize and try to suppress Yemen, which is the one place that is standing actively in opposition to genocide as an example for humanity. The slogan and the words are not sufficient, but if you want that slogan to have meaning and to have substance, if you want La ilaha illallah not just to be words on your tongue, but to be a value system that defines your life, if you want Muhammadun Rasulullah not just to be on your identity card, but if you want it to be inspiring your actions and your decisions in your life, if you want the Quran not just to be a book you read or memorize for blessings or keep in your home to ward off ill fate, but rather to be a guide for your life and a source of salvation, then it is only through the gate of Ahlul Bayt that you can understand what true monotheism is, and what the messengership of our Prophet is, and what the revelation of the Quran means for us. And that is the message of the Imams of Baqee. That is what the opposition and the destruction of their memory and their historical sites and even their shrines. So we stand here on an annual basis to say that that crime is not forgotten. And there is a connection between those who want to destroy Quds and demolish Masjid al-Aqsa and their ancestors who destroyed Jannatul Baqee and the historical the shrines and the masjids of the Muslims in Medina and in Mecca and in Hijaz. There is a straight line between those historical crimes and between the crimes that are being committed today and the crimes that are being planned for the future of this ummah. We stand here to remember that history and to stand in opposition to that evil. But the last thing that I will say is that we depart here not just with a prayer for the end of that oppression, but with a stronger commitment to the path of Ahlul Bayt, because we keep Baqee alive in our hearts. We keep the example of the Imams and Ahlul Bayt and the true message of Islam and the Prophet and the Quran alive in our hearts. And so long as that message and so long as Baqee lives in our hearts and in our souls, then no amount of opposition and no amount of oppression, and no matter how long has passed since the destruction of those sacred sites, they will be rebuilt and they will come back to be a source not only of visitation and inspiration, but of guidance and for humanity. So let us depart today with a prayer that may this be the last time we gather to protest a crime that was committed, and may our next gathering be one to celebrate the restoration of the injustice that was committed. But may we take today and every day in our lives that beauty of Baqee and the Imams of Baqee in our hearts, on our tongues, in our action. May we stand up in our individual life, in our worship, in our relationship with our family and our community, and our message to humanity on the side of the Prophet, on the side of Ahlul Bayt. May we say with our prayers and with our actions, with our character and with our words, that whatever people may give their lives to, we give our lives and our attention and our intentions to the message of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad alayhimu salatu wassalam. This is not a sectarian issue. This is not purely a Muslim issue, but this is our belief about the purpose of our existence and the source of healing for all of humanity. The humility of Ahlul Bayt, the sacrifice of Ahlul Bayt, the worship, the devotion of Ahlul Bayt, the commitment to justice and the standing up for justice that we learn from Ahlul Bayt. May that be the message that we take today from this protest. And may Ahlul Bayt look at us, and in particular the Imam of our time look at us and say that if the world stood in opposition, or if the world stood in silence, if our lovers and our followers and the believers were not safe in their homes or in their masjids, then our message lived in the hearts of those true believers who never forgot the covenant of God, the call of the Prophet, the guidance of the Imams. May we be the ones to preserve that message. May you and I be the ones who not only see the rebuilding of Baqee, but the ability of all believers, men and women, to offer their respects to the Prophet as is due to him, and to the family of Prophet as is due to them. And may we see that Masjid al-Aqsa is restored to the Muslim world and to its indigenous people, so that they can live in safety and they can pray in safety in that mosque and all of the houses of worship and all of the lands, and all in particular the masajid and the sacred sites of the Muslims are safe from the enemies of Islam, external and internal. I offer my du'as and my prayers to all of you who have come, and I hope for myself and for all of us that when we leave, we don't say that we have done our duty, but we feel that our duty is just beginning, and we continue to keep that in our heart and in our actions. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.